welcome to episode 118 of the Son of a Tech podcast, where joining me, as always, is my co-host, Slingerang.
Hello, hello.
Today we're going to be talking about the games we played this week, along with some news topics, and, of course, the game releases at the end of the show.
So, what did you end up playing this week?
I played a few games. I've been playing Lawbreakers, so I guess I'm starting with the game I played most recently. And essentially, it's a game from old Cliffy B from Gears of War, the original Gears of War. And he's an all-around badass who had too much money and took a break from making games, and then decided that it just wasn't fulfilling enough for him. So he came back and made a game called Lawbreakers, which is essentially a super, super fast first-person shooter, class-based first-person shooter. It unjustly gets compared to Overwatch most of the time. I don't feel much Overwatch going on in it at all, where Overwatch has more of a team feel. This doesn't have quite that. Now, I haven't gotten into the upper echelons of play now, of course, but definitely like where Overwatch, even at the kind of, what would you call it, lower levels, you still need to do a lot of teamwork. There's not so much that at the lower levels. You can pretty much wreck shop like you would in an Unreal Tournament or a Call of Duty or any other kind of regular first-person shooter.
So I'm assuming they don't have tanks or healers then?
They do have tanks and healers, but it's still very kill-based. The perk you get for the healer, or the biggest perk, is while you can like heal other players with your main ability, you also are the only character that regens health. Now, you do have a lower amount of health, but you do regen health. Okay. Health is pretty hefty, but it goes away really, really fast with abilities. So you're talking about where in Overwatch, like, you would have to get a couple players to pop abilities on a player from at full health to get them to go down, you know?
Right.
In
Unless
this
it's
game,
an ultimate,
you can just pop all of your abilities as just yourself on a single character and finish them off. But that being said, it's really hard to aim. It's very fast-paced. So you have to have it's definitely a Twitch-based skill shooter with classes involved, essentially. Right. I enjoy it. It's fun. I suck at it, but I'm working on it. I need some work. Then I played Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, which is a new game that also came out last week. I actually chose to buy that over Lawbreakers, but a friend bought Lawbreakers for me, so I got both, which was cool. But Hellblade, I only got one boss in so far, and it's a very good story game. I enjoy it a lot. It has a like a puzzle, basically a puzzle system, way off base with the whole Dark Souls thing, like we kind of said. Yeah, no, it's mainly a puzzle game with some combat, not very much, and the combat is not like, you can't really dodge roll. It's more of a block parry combat, but it's a very basic block parry combat with a dodge option that doesn't really work like you would expect it to.
Okay. Now, I'm seeing a game on your list here. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of wondering why. You played No Man's Sky?
Yeah,
really?
So No Man's Sky, I played it when it first came out. And, I mean, the only reason I liked it more than other people when it first came out was because I was playing it on 980 Ti. Because if you recall, the performance was so shit that pretty much nobody could play it on anything else. So I was lucky enough to experience the game when it first came out at a reasonable frame rate, is what I will call it, at 1080p. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the soundtrack. It was a relaxing experience, etc., but the depth just wasn't there. Now, they released a patch just recently, which was essentially, I think it was 1.6. And I believe if you go to Steam now, too, the recent reviews are mostly positive. So, of course, already owning the game, seeing the update, and then seeing that the recent reviews are mostly positive, I would be doing it injustice if I didn't give it another visit. The things that they've added is multiplayer. So multiplayer is finally in the game. Woohoo. They also added base building. The only annoyance with the base building being added is they force you to create a save point. So essentially, the first save point's super easy to build, right? Which is no problem, and you can build a save point. But because of how spread out No Man's Sky is, like once you start going through the missions, you're like, oh shit, I always need to keep enough in my inventory to build a save point whenever I get to the next planet or whatever the fuck. That's the only mild annoyance. But I think with the base building, what they were really trying to get you to do is colonize your home planet fully and then go out and explore, is what I feel like they're trying to do. Or like create. Because
which doesn't really make sense, because I feel like the entire point of that game is exploration.
Right, yeah. I don't know. You make a good point. However, I will say that the just the overall base building itself and like item construction, just all the crafting is very well flushed out now, and it makes it fun, right? Or
like
at least
better than Fallout 4, or
well, that's a very subjective thing because Fallout 4 is very buggy. This game's not buggy like that. So, you know, I mean, and it's a completely different type of game. I would compare it more to a Minecraft, like a really large Minecraft, essentially. You know, but without all the mods, etc. I'm trying to place it. That's the best I could do. Maybe more Elite Dangerous, but Elite Dangerous doesn't really have too much planet and crafting, etc. going on in it, so I can't really say that. It is within its own genre enough to where if you like crafting exploration games, it's worth checking out. You know, there's not a lot of combat on the planet side. There's a lot more but there is a lot more combat now that they've added into the space exploration side of things. So that gives it a little tick up on the ratings chart. At this point, now I would feel good at giving it, you know, a 6 out of 10, which I don't like arbitrary numbers, but to give you an idea, you know, if initial release would be like a 4 out of 10, this is a 6 out of 10. It bumped it over the I can't suggest this to friends to, hey, if you like this type of game, you'll probably enjoy it.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's kind of a huge improvement, though. Like 4 to 6. Like, I know those are arbitrary numbers, but like that's a 50% increase.
Right. So I mean, I think they're doing a very good job. You know, they got hammered hard. You know, people shit all over them to where they pretty much just quit Twitter and quit social media altogether. Right. So the resilience and I think like the work ethic and everything, like overall, because of that, like
huge
just means that much more. Like I'm like, that's really cool of you guys that you're actually, you know, doing that.
So this week, my guild was able to go and get the last boss of Tomb down on heroic. That was
nice,
pretty cool. But I'm still kind of in this. I don't really feel like playing a lot of WoW in general anymore.
Okay, so you've been doing what have you been
logging
doing
on
mainly?
For raids and then logging in anymore. In the meantime, though, I've still been going and playing some PUBG. I feel like I'm getting worse at that game, though. Like the more I play,
the more you play, the worse you get.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's because you're just overthinking it, trying to get better and better. But I don't know.
I think I'm bad at combat. And that's like pretty shitty considering
that's the point of the game.
That's the point of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like I can use strategery to go and get into the top 10, but that top 10 is usually because I'm crawling around and, you know, being extremely fickle about what fights I'm engaging in. And that really isn't the point of the game. You get points for going and killing people, and you get points for, you know, surviving.
Right.
And surviving in the rankings. And you get far more points if you do both at the same time. And I can go and kill, you know, my KD is terrible. It's like maybe 50%. So I can kill someone like every other match, it seems, and then I'll just die. So like I really need to work on that. I think part of the problem though is that like with PUBG, because it's a survival shooter, you end up putting so much effort into the surviving part and being so, especially myself, I end up being so fickle about the engagements that I choose to go and fight in
that you're not ready.
I don't get combat experience. Like, I'm not getting good with the weapons because I'm not shooting them often enough, if that makes sense.
No, and like for me, whenever I play games like that, or even when I do like a survival horror, I think is the best genre I could point to. Like, I'll get in that mode of like sneaking, right? And I'm sneaking for so long that like when it comes to combat, I like get stuck in a crouch. I'm not thinking, and I don't have the twitch skill because I'm in a different like mindset.
And you get like a surge of adrenaline too because you were
so
discovered, right? So
and like
instead of being ready for the combat and being like, all right, I know what to do here and here and here, and I'm gonna fire at this guy. There's a guy on my shoulder over here. If I take him down, then I have to reload and quickly blah blah blah. Instead of that, you're like, prone, I'm dead.
Yeah. Instead of aiming, you're trying to do some other move to get out of it. And
Right.
When probably better off. And then at the same time, or you spray, right? And then you're just like, you have no control over where the fucking bullets are going, and you spray all over the screen. I saw an interesting one here, though, bringing it old school with what is it, StarCraft?
StarCraft Remastered, yeah. So StarCraft Remastered hit today. And
okay.
It was only like $15 or something like that. The graphics are improved. It's by no means a gorgeous game.
Have you tried to play online?
I played against one of my guildmates from my World of Warcraft
so that's a little easier. Then I was like, did you do matchmaking yet and get your ass absolutely handed to you with 300 APM fucking...
Yeah, so we played 2 games.
Pro.
He beat me once and I beat him once. And both times the winner had 45 APM and the loser had like 35 APM.
Nice.
So
I mean, and so much of that game, or so much of StarCraft, the APM comes from like knowing your build order. And so that's where I, like, when I was playing really, really good, like my highest APM was around 285. But that's when I was like in Diamond and I played every night when I got home, and that's all I fucking did.
Right.
But like my average was probably around like 175 to like 209. That was about like 209 was a good game for me. And that was playing, like I said, every day. And I had the build order like absolutely mastered down to where like the initial like start of the game was like 300 APM. And then it just kind of slowly died off as I always got worse as the game went on. So I always tried to finish them off early and that's how you got through like most of the lower rankings up to the top. And then once you got there, you're just fucked because everybody else was doing it too, but then they could sustain longer.
Right. I will say, so like there's a couple things that I noticed that were frustrating from playing it though. Control groups, for one thing. You have a maximum control group of like 10 characters or 10 units or whatever. Okay. And with a 200 units max thing, that means that you're going to end up having more control units than you have buttons on your keyboard. So it's like at a certain point it becomes a little bit like tedious to go and control all of the different groups and micromanage. And like I can understand like in fight, if you're doing a crazy amount of APM, like most of it's just because you can't go. Yeah, if you
have your micro skills or whatever.
Right. You can't go and make like a prototypical Protoss ball from StarCraft 2 where it's, here's 100 units in one ball that are just going to rape you. You have like you can't control you can't
Which
control
was like the whole thing about
once.
StarCraft 2. You could beat most of the lower levels if you got really good at your macro and not even have to worry about micro. But once you got to that micro, things sucked ass. That's for sure.
So the other thing that was kind of funny is while they had a StarCraft Remastered like launch event, and it was funny to go and see Sean Plott going and casting that, considering way back in the day he was a really famous caster. But he did the whole Dota 2 championship, which was this weekend.
Oh, okay.
For those of you who haven't heard about aren't Dota fans, the International was this weekend, and it was like a $25 million prize pool, which is absolutely ridiculous. But one of the other things that were kind of interesting coming from that whole event was they had a kind of a demo during the event, and this is going to be one of our first news topics. They had an AI go and beat one of the more popular Dota 2 players, Dendi. He was not playing in the International this year. His team didn't make it, or I don't even know that he has a full 5-man squad right now. But he was beaten 1v1 versus an AI that wasn't programmed to play the game, but learned to play the game over the course of 2 weeks. It took only 2 weeks for this bot to go and beat one of the world-renowned mid players in the game. And one of the reasons that perk caught my eye, I actually watched the game live, but Elon Musk actually tweeted about it. His tweet goes, "OpenAI first ever to defeat world's best players in competitive esports, vastly more complex than traditional board games like chess and Go." So obviously,
chess is like the famous computer AI stuff,
right?
But
right.
Well, yeah, and I like his tweet about with the Terminator here, the machines will win. Vastly more risk.
Dendi, who is not a native English speaker, he goes and tweeted about it. He said, "Didn't wait until machines going to start the war against humanity and kicked vacuum cleaner with my leg." So Dendi's quite the character. There's actually there's a video that was made about him that was shown at the International, I want to say 3 years ago or something like that. And basically they're trying to go and make all of the players have bigger name recognition. So they'll cover, the up-and-comer from the last International at the next International.
Right.
But a lot of those videos are pretty interesting and very well done. So if you guys have any interest in Dota 2 or even just want to go and see, what potentially the future of esports is, as far as
guys
it's kind of like
money playing video games.
It's kind of like a ESPN's 30 for 30s. It had that type of production value and feel. So right. I definitely suggest going and checking that out.
Sweet. Send me a link. I'll put it in the description below. In other gaming news, Middle-earth: Shadow of War, the endgame details were revealed, and essentially they kind of spoiled it a little bit because they went ahead and said this is where you'll get the true endgame. And I feel like that's a double-edged sword, right? Because you take away all of the surprise for the people that spend a whole bunch of time doing it, but then we've already proven that, only 10% of gamers complete the game. So I don't know. That was what I thought when I read it, right? Mm-hmm. Mainly because it seems like they're like, well, we have this ending and we really want someone to do it right when it comes out, so we're just going to tell everybody about it. But for the people that because there are plenty of live streamers that do full playthroughs, so eventually someone would find it. I feel like it would have been nicer to just leave it be, right? And just kind of make it a surprise.
I mean, I understand what they're doing here, though. How many people, and we've talked about this a lot in the past, if you go and look at the single-player campaigns in Call of Duty or Battlefield or any of those games, a lot of people just don't go and play them.
The only defense for that would be that this game's primarily a single-player game. That's what it's aimed towards, so I don't know. It's a little different, right? You would expect a larger majority of people to actually complete this game. Because if you're going to pay $60 for a single-player game, sure hope you're at least going to complete it one time.
That might be something that came from internal playtesting too. The people in the beta or alpha, they were like, wait, this is all there is to the game, and then they didn't realize that they had to do more in order to go and get the real ending. So we'll see. I definitely plan on picking that up because I loved the first one.
Yeah. Cool. So What's our final topic? This one's big. This one's big for us, I feel like, even though I don't even have a console right now, damn it. I think it's coming out for PC, though, right?
Wait, you don't have a console right now?
No, so, yeah, long story. I have the money set aside for the Xbox One X, though, so I'm okay. Good.
Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
The return to form you've been waiting for is the headline.
So this is essentially a Sonic going back to 16-bit. Is that correct? I believe it's 16-bit. Yes. And it's got some... I think it has some levels that are a little higher than 16-bit. I did see some of the like classic kind of almost faux 3D stages in the preview. And it's essentially a classic Sonic the Hedgehog game, but with all new levels and shit. So I'm intrigued, especially if it's gonna be running like 60 FPS, which I assume it would. That would be like a return to true form for like Sonic, like a 60 FPS Sonic side scroller game, or that'd be sweet.
Right. Yeah, it's coming out for the PC release is going to be a little bit later. So
okay.
PS4, Xbox One, and Switch will be this week, and we'll talk about it a little bit more at the end in our game release section. But PC comes out August 29th. So
sweet.
No, Sonic was effectively my first gaming experience.
Mine was Prince of Persia on the PC, and then Sonic was my first console experience because the orthodontist had one.
So I got a Genesis for Christmas with Sonic 2 and Sonic 1. Like probably 1991 or 1992. Like I was 5 or 6 years old. I think Sonic 2 came out in 92. So it would have been the Christmas of 92 that I would have got it.
Okay.
And to this day, I still remember the day that I beat the game the first time. And I think I beat Sonic 2 first because Sonic 2 was a little bit easier than Sonic 1. And I immediately put the Sonic 1 cartridge in and beat Sonic 1 the same afternoon.
Nice.
So at, like 6 years old, I was already getting to the point of wanting to stay up till 3 a.m. playing video games.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel you on that one. I liked my Game Boy because I could do that and nobody could figure it out. Or at least I felt like no one could figure it out. Because you'd just be like, I'm going to turn this on. But you had that stupid light. Even with the Game Boy Color, I had the Game Boy Color at one point. The blue see-through one. And then you had the fold-over light so you could fucking see the screen.
Yep, with the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I would be like under the covers trying to play with the music off. Played so much Pokemon Red and Blue with the sound off.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So much of it. And it played fine with the sound off. I didn't like playing Zelda with the sound off as much. I don't know. Just the way I felt about it. What about game releases for the week?
First up on the list, Agents of Mayhem, coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
Agents of Mayhem is essentially if you took a whole bunch of mix of third-person open-world games and mashed them together, but it is most reminiscent of Saints Row series. I'm interested in it because I dig the Saints Row series. I like over the top. I feel like if you're going to do like the third-person kind of shooter thing, that's neat. The thing that makes me most intrigued is in some of the reviews I was reading that were posting up today, they were saying that it had an aspect of Borderlands in it, and I don't know if that means there's loot drops, but if it's a looter shooter, third person open world, I'm down for that. That sounds cool to me. So
it's hard to tell what it is based off of videos, as it is with every game, it seems.
Pretty much. The next game is Matterfall for PS4 on August 15th. It's a side-scroller. It has a really cool cinematic trailer, though. Like a dope-ass cinematic trailer. I dug it.
I'm letting it play right now.
the disappointment for me was going from the cinematic trailer to the gameplay and then realizing that it doesn't, like, it looks good and it has a very creative kind of platformer mechanic with his kind of I would call it like a pixel shooter, you know? Like, if you ever seen the movie Pixels where they can like create stuff, it kind of it's reminiscent of that. So that's kind of what I like about it, but
no, it does look really cool.
Like, the platforming aspect of it looks very solid for sure.
Next up on the list, we already talked about this, is Sonic Mania. As we said earlier, it's coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, with a later release on PC August 29th.
And then finally we have Sudden Strike 4 for PlayStation 4. The gameplay trailer is essentially up, is the one I'll post for you guys, but it's a Sudden Strike game. I believe this one's already on PC as well, so this is just a console kind of re-release. It does bode well for console strategy games because it has a pause mechanic, meaning, like, console games are not fun to play, strategy games are not fun to play on console. But if you have, like, a pause mechanic, it almost turns it into a tactics game, like a Final Fantasy Tactics game, right? Which kind of makes it a little bit more console friendly, in my opinion. So it might be worth checking out if you're a console peasant, as the PC Master Race calls you. You jerks.
I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever be able to go and play an RTS on a console.
Yeah, even this one seems kind of not fun, right? Because it has enough, like, unit selection that moving the cursor seems like a big pain in the ass.
So, but that's it for the game releases for the week. I think we're gonna go and cut this episode short.
Yeah, we were doing 30-minute episodes for a while. This week there wasn't a lot of news, and the only interesting topic was one that that openAI bought. There wasn't much out that I could find that I was interested in, so that will wrap it up this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday.
Peace out.